Yes, hello there and welcome to today's episode of Weekend Rewind. Yes, this is when we put our hands back into the Join Up Dots vaults, swirl it around a bit and find an episode that maybe has got lost in the midst of time. And this is in response to the amount of requests we get from people who say, David, with all the episodes you've released, where should we start? Well, it's very hard to find a place, so we're just going to randomly pick one, and this is today's episode. Enjoy.
When we're young, we have an amazing, positive outlook about how great life is going to be, but somewhere along the line, we forget to dream and end up settling. Join Up Dots features amazing people who refuse to give up and chose to go after their dreams. This is your blueprint for greatness. So here's your host, live from the back of his garden in the UK, David Ralph.
Yes, hello there world, hello there everybody, wherever you are listening to us, listening to episode 474 of Join Up Dots, welcome to you. It's going to be a good one today because I've already been flirting big time and the lady is going for it. I can feel that my powers are working from her end and she likes to have a drink at any time of the day, it seems. It makes no difference to her. So she's come to the right place. That's what we like to do on Join Up Dots. And she is a guest who is joining us, and her passion, I suppose, and her belief is travel, and then more travel, and then when she's finished and wants a bit of rest, yeah, go on in, a bit more travel. And this is not to pack your bags for 2 weeks each year or for as many weekends as you can get kind of adventure. Her and her partner Craig are believers that your life does not have to fit in a box. You don't have to live behind a picket fence, slave away at that full-time job that sucks you dry and the monotonous peak hour traffic runs. You can have the picket fence and a job you love, of course. They're not taking that away from you, but we're pretty sure that at least you want to escape your everyday life for weekend getaways or a 3-week vacation every year. But what is the fascinating thing about today's guests? How close they came to buying into the status quo that life seems to be lived by, settling into the routine of a life lived on other people's terms. After meeting each other, falling madly in love, and then beginning a 5-year honeymoon as they travelled the world teaching English, things came to a halt. As they say, we returned home after the honeymoon and hit a major slump. This travel life we loved was over. That thinking changed everything, and before we knew it, we were chasing money-making schemes all over the world, trying to get the riches we need to keep travelling. Let's just say 500,000 and no self-esteem later, we woke up. So why do we need to wait until we have the money to live what's in our hearts? Why not just start with what's in the hearts today? And with that thought, and I'm sure more than a touch of apprehension, they set off on what has become their life, travelling, blogging and helping others to buy into the start of the dream today. Now, with their top-ranked blog, Why Travel, she is inspiring the world to greatness. And now with 2 children in tow, their success and ability to grab more experiences in a month than most of us have in a lifetime is assured. So what was it about the nomadic lifestyle that had such a pull on them? And is it something that they think that everyone can do? Or does it take a certain type of mindset? Well, let's find out as we bring onto the show to start joining up dots with the one and only Caroline Makepeace. How are you, Caroline?
I'm great, David. Thank you. What a great introduction. You're getting more and more attractive to me as we go along.
It don't take long, does it? It really doesn't take long.
No, not at all.
It is one of those introductions that when I started writing it, and I started writing it a couple of weeks ago when we first connected, I've got 5 kids. Now, some of them are grown up.
Wow.
2 of them are younger ones. But I love what you're doing, but I don't think I could do it. I love the thought of travel, but the thought of taking my kids away from sort of certain schools and that routine. Is it hard or is it easy? Am I making it harder than it should be?
Yeah, I do think people make it harder than what it is. And I do speak about this quite a lot, and I have a lot lately. I don't think it's as hard. I think parenting is hard. So for me, it doesn't matter where I am, it's still going to be hard. So my perspective is I might as well go and travel and have these amazing experiences in between the difficult times. Otherwise, I feel like when I'm at home and I'm not traveling, the bits in between are just filled with, running around to extracurricular activities or going to school or house cleaning and all these other stuff that don't really create great memories for me. So I feel that the challenges don't stop. It's just the moments in between get better when I travel.
Oh, that's quotable, isn't it? Have you used that before, or have you just spouted that off the top of your head?
No, I don't know if it was exactly word for word, but something very similar I have said before. Yeah.
Yeah, because that is true, isn't it? Because, you know, as I'm recording at the moment, and it's just coming up to Christmas, but this show for the listeners is just after New Year, and I'm just about to go off to Euro Disney for a few days with the kids, and it's my first break this year. I've just been engulfed with work, and I said to my wife, I said, 2016 is going to be different. I'm going to make more of an effort to squeeze it in. But you know when you're saying something and you kind of think, I'm not sure I'm going to do that anyway, but it's nice to say. What was different about you? How have you managed to go from what I'm saying, yes, I'm going to do it in 2016, I'm going to travel the world with my microphone, seducing beautiful ladies in bars and getting them on the show, to just where I am at the moment, not doing anything? What's different about you?
Well, I think it comes down to how big is your burning desire and why do you have it. So for me, sometimes I feel like I'm not sure I can quite explain this burning desire. It's just something I've always had, this feeling within me that my life is not complete unless I'm traveling. So I think and whatever that is for anybody, for me it's travel, for someone else it might be writing, another one a musician, someone an artist, but whatever that burning thing is within you where you don't feel like you're living completely unless you're doing it, once you tap into that, and it's easy to kind of follow through because it's less of kind of wishful thinking but more of drive and determination, and you have a very clear understanding of why you're doing it, and so then it doesn't seem like something you have to do, it's just something that you naturally do each day.
And are you somebody that naturally travels light, or when you travel, do you take your whole home with you? Where do you keep it all? Because, as I say, I'm going to Euro Disney. I'm already having an argument with my wife that we're only going for 4 days and we can do it in hand luggage. And she said, I can't take, I've got to take everything. You don't know what you need out there. Now, you're travelling constantly. So how do you do that?
Yeah, well, it is a challenge. I do like to take a lot of things. When I was younger and I was backpacking, I could easily live out of the backpack and just have a few changes of clothes, and I was more than happy. Now I have kids, I like to take a little bit more because I like to keep them comfortable. The more comfortable they are, the less drama there tends to be. And we just finished an 18-month road trip around Australia. So we had a car, we had a camper trailer that we towed, which was our home, so we could carry a lot more with us. But if I'm just traveling somewhere on a short getaway, 2 weeks, etc., I like to just fit what I can in the suitcase, and sort of the rule of thumb that we have is we pack our suitcase and then we reduce it by a third. Then we pack it again and reduce it by a third, because you find you throw in so much stuff that you think you're going to need, but you really don't. So if you pack it with the intention of everything you want in the beginning and then say, okay, what can I reduce this by? You can then make kind of better decisions about what is worthwhile taking. And the backup plan is that really it doesn't matter where you're going. Most places, destinations that you're going, if you get stuck and run out of something, you can easily purchase it somewhere.
But who's third? Is it your third or Craig's third? Because I couldn't do that. I'd be going, right, we don't need that, and she'd be going, we do need that, and we wouldn't get anywhere. We'd argue. So how do you decide on what thirds aren't going to be taken with you?
Maybe just flip a coin. Or pack your own suitcase. You decide your third and she decides her third. And then you have to carry your own suitcases.
Not going to work, Caroline. It's not going to work. You're a naive lady who's obviously been drinking already. That doesn't pan out in my life. So if we take you back, because obviously at the moment you're travelling the world, you're loving your life, but there was that point where it could have stumbled, it could have dried up, where you'd done the backpacking, you'd done the honeymooning, and you could have easily become Mr. and Mrs. Suburbia, raising your kids in a nice little house somewhere, doing what most people do, going to work and coming home and flopping onto the sofa in the evenings until you get up and do it again next day. Tell us about that. Tell us about how you broke free from what everybody else does in life.
Yeah, I think the fortunate thing with me was I started traveling for 3 days after I graduated from university. So I guess my first experience out in the world as an adult was this grand adventure, exploring and traveling the world. So I didn't really know any other way of being. So when our honeymoon finished with my husband and I, and we sort of settled and fell pregnant and started to slip into that lifestyle, I just felt really disconnected and really lost. And I just thought, there's nothing here for me. Like, every day was just becoming the same, and I had lost that adventure and that discovery and that real connection to life. And I've said before, it felt like I was trying to drink through a straw that had holes all in it. It just didn't work. I just couldn't get anything out of the straw. That's what life felt like for me. And I was like, there has to be another way. I just can't keep living like this. I just feel like there's no purpose or point to my life anymore. I need to make a different choice. And you mentioned in the introduction, at this stage, I thought I had to chase the money then, because my husband and I had followed the strategy of working around the world so we could go and live in another country on a working holiday visa, and that was how we sustained our travel. We were earning money as we were traveling, but we hit our 30s and those options dried up for us. So for me, I then was like, well, we have to get rich, because I've got to get this money so I can continue traveling. And we just went down wrong path after wrong path, chasing dodgy internet schemes and investing in the wrong areas, which led to total devastation. We lost everything. We'd had a couple of investment properties and we lost everything. All up, it was about $500,000 in assets. So I was at I couldn't get any lower. I was totally shut off from travel, disconnected for life. And now I was absolutely broke, on the verge of bankruptcy. So at that stage, I had to dig even deeper. What am I going to do? How can I turn this around? I can't let this be my legacy. And I just brought it back to, well, what is it that I really love? And it was travel. And so I just started writing about travel. And that's how we discovered the travel blog. And that kind of pulled us out of that. But to get back to your original question, I'm not sure if I kind of went off track there, but there was I just couldn't see myself living any other way. It just didn't make sense for me, and it just didn't work, and I knew that I had to do something in order to make my life worthwhile.
So for the listeners out there, the sort of nugget of gold that you shared was you got down to that base level of, what do I love? Let me be Caroline Makepeace, not try to be the internet guru trying to follow other people's schemes, not trying to be something that I'm not, but getting right down to that nuts and bolts. What do I like doing? And then starting to build an income around that, basically.
That's it. And I remember sitting at my dining room table in 2007, and I had this idea and I mapped it out to create a travel blog. I'd only just heard of travel blogs then, of blogging actually. I hadn't even heard of travel blogs. To start a blog, and I mapped out this idea of creating a community, and I scrunched it up and threw it in the bin. And I was like, that's ridiculous. You're not the Lonely Planet. No one's going to care about your stories. It's not going to work. And that's when I then decided to chase money schemes all around the place. And it comes down to a lack of doubt, but also it just seems too simple when you say, well, get back to doing what you really love. For most of us, we've grown up, and the things that we really love are our hobbies and our passion, and we've been taught that a job, the way we make money is through a job and career. We're not taught about exploring the idea of making money around things that we love. We kind of separate it into a hobby. And that's why a lot of people struggle with this idea that you actually can create an income around something that you love. And it's why many people don't even give it a try.
I think you're absolutely right on that, and I think I've been on the same journey. I started this podcasting game because I thought I would enjoy it, and I didn't know what else to do in my life. And as it panned off and it's become very lucrative, a lot of people have been saying to me, we build a community around it, teach people, show them how to do it as well. And in my heart of hearts, I was thinking, I don't know if I fluked this. Maybe it's just me that this works for. Maybe that I'm just a lucky one. So I've kind of held back on this. Now we've got a platform that we're promoting big time in 2016 called Dream Starters Academy, where we teach people to get back to their basics, their core essence, and start working it up by taking incremental steps every single day. And now I've grasped the fact that what I was saying in episode 1, 2, 3 is actually true. I was saying it before I fully grasped it myself. And then once I grasped it, I had to start believing in it. And now I totally believe in it. Everything is becoming easier and easier, as you say, because we know what we're good at. We know what we like. And it's just having that ability to power think your way through those concerns, those doubts of who's going to listen to my stories? Who's going to listen to me, this UK guy on a microphone talking into the... Who? But there's 7.8 billion people out there, and you only need a few crumbs, don't you, to make a living?
Well, absolutely. I mean, you don't need to speak to millions, and a lot of people think that's what they have to do, but it's not. It's just connecting with people who resonate with your story and connect with your beliefs and your passions. And it's about sharing what you love, sharing what you're good at, what you're talented at, in order to help other people. And there's so much power in that, and it is really simple. And you mentioned about that you felt that maybe you were just lucky, and I've gone through the similar kind of feelings when people would ask me, and I'm like, well, I kind of don't know how I did it. This is basically it. And it did feel a lot of the times that, I did just get lucky. But I don't actually believe in luck. I don't think it's just about following your heart, which you spoke about in the introduction, and really having an intention to share that with other people, because there will be people out there who will resonate and that you can connect with.
Now, I know you don't believe in luck, but did you think it was lucky that you just happened to be, I think it was in a bar in Ireland, and this sexy guy walked in at that time who not only connected with you physically, he fancied you, come on Kaz, he fancied you, but he also liked doing the things that you do as well. And he wasn't somebody that was going to anchor you to the fact that, no, I want to become an architect and just go to the office every day. Do you think that was luck, that the two of you, kindred spirits, found each other?
No, I don't think it's luck. I think it's serendipitous. I think there's greater things at work there that are moving things around to help line you up with the right people that you need in your life and your journey to help you create what your purpose is, and to create that life that you're dreaming of. And I think the more we tap into following our heart, being guided by our inner voice, the more those serendipitous encounters happen, or the more that we're aware of them and see them.
So when you were younger and somebody said to you that phrase, the universe works in strange ways, I used to think to them, lunatic, you're a complete lunatic.
Cult member.
Yeah, cult member, yeah, absolutely, and all that kind of woo-woo stuff. But now, I don't bring it into my show very often, but I'll be honest with you, and I can be honest with you, Caroline, because no one's listening to this, it's just you and me.
It's just us.
It's just us. I do believe that now. I do believe that there's a kind of cause and effect thing going on, and by getting out and rippling the pool enough, those ripples are going to go out and then start coming back towards you. Because I have some weird stuff happen to me now that wouldn't have happened 5 years ago, but then again, I'm taking more action every day. So it does work, doesn't it?
It does, and I'm a really big fan of the woo-woo, and I talk about this a lot, and I love how you mentioned about the taking action part, because I think, the law of attraction, The Secret, came out as this huge thing a few years ago, and I think a lot of people, myself included, got sucked into that. Well, I can just kind of hang around and dream about this car that I want and create a vision board and it'll arrive into my life. It didn't really dive into the importance of taking action, to actually walking towards what it is that you want and having a hand in creating it. And I think that's such an important thing for people to understand. There's so much power in you taking action, but in big dreaming as well, and doing all that, it opens up those doors of possibility for you, so that those lucky sort of things can happen.
I have something weird happen to me every single day. And for years, I used to say to people, I don't believe in ghosts, I don't believe in this, I don't believe in that, because nothing weird has ever happened to me. I've never walked into a room and a chair's moved across or anything. And I've always got people, even my wife says to me, oh no, I've seen a ghost. And I think, yeah, well, I would love to. I'd love to see a UFO. Yes. I would love to see something strange so I could go, I can't understand that, but I saw it. Anyhow, nothing's ever happened to me. But now, literally every day, I open my inbox and weird things, emails. I have weird emails where I might be thinking to myself, that guest would be good to have on the show. And I make no effort towards it. And then I get an email going, we would like to know if you would have so-and-so on the show. And I think, oh, that's a bit strange. How's that happen?
Yeah.
But it's happening. My inbox is like spookiness.
It's amazing, and this happens to me all the time as well. And I think the more you see it, and the more you celebrate it and get excited about it, the more it happens. But the same is happening to me. A couple of months ago, I decided, I want to join some podcasts and be interviewed on some podcasts. So I let my assistant know, and we came up with a plan to work out to get onto some podcast shows. And then my inbox just was flooded with requests from people asking if I wanted to be on their podcast show. And we had a mutual friend that connected the both of us. And then last week I was saying to myself, I really want to be featured on Forbes. And I was interviewed on a podcast the other day by a lady over in the US, and then she contacted me after it and said, I write a column for Forbes, I'd love to feature your story in it. And I was like, wow, that's amazing. I didn't even have to really do any work. I just sort of stated what I wanted and it came to me.
But being typical me, the skeptical, you have got a fascinating story. That's what appeals, isn't it? If you wanted to go on loads of podcasts and you was a PA for a media company or something, it probably wouldn't work. The fact that you are getting out there and you're doing something unusual, that is the hook, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And I think that's where the value comes with pursuing, what you're passionate about, what your heart is, and because there's just so much, that's an interesting story in itself, because that is going against the status quo. Most people don't do that. And when you follow that, and you're a perfect example of that as well, and what you end up creating from it is something I'm sure you never predicted when you first started. It's like this whole new world unravels for you and you create something amazing, and that becomes the interesting story.
Well, let's play some words now and then take us on to the next stage of the conversation. These are words that I play literally every day on the show just because I love them. And I think the listeners love them as well. So listeners, you're going to keep on getting it. This is Jim Carrey.
My father could have been a great comedian, but he didn't believe that was possible for him. And so he made a conservative choice. Instead, he got a safe job as an accountant. And when I was 12 years old, he was let go from that safe job. And our family had to do whatever we could to survive. I learned many great lessons from my father, not the least of which was that you can fail at what you don't want. So you might as well take a chance on doing what you love.
Now, I love the fact that most of us, well, I think all of us, have got family of sorts. And with Jim, he was saying that he was influenced by his dad's kind of inherent lack of belief somehow. He played the safe route. When you said to your parents, I'm going to go and travel the world and I'm going to just, come back when I want, did they sort of say, oh, hang on, no, you're better off getting a safe job and playing the route that everybody else does?
Yes and no. Not so much. My eldest brother travelled before me, so he kind of eased the path, I suppose. But I've always had my parents fortunately have been quite supportive, although I do know that they do worry in the background, and they were always concerned about this idea of, oh, are you going to get a real job? But they did know that it was something I really wanted to do, and so they were very supportive. And I think a lot of it stems from my parents kind of, when they were younger, went against the status quo in a way. They lived in Sydney, and they moved away a couple of hours up north in search of a better life, because they thought it would be better for their children to be raised out of the city. And so they had that kind of aspect for themselves, knowing that sometimes you make decisions that you know is best for you or for your family, that everyone else around you might not think it is, but it's important that you go with what you think is best. So I know that was that part of them. They understood that, so they supported me in that way. But there's also another part, and I think this has really influenced me in a lot of ways with my own father. He had a ambition and drive to play cricket, and it's his number one passion. But he didn't pursue it as a young man because he didn't have the right mentors. He didn't believe it was possible for him. He didn't know how to do it for whatever reason. And I know that because he didn't follow that path of his heart, life ended up being quite a struggle and quite challenging for him. He wasn't happy. He was, quite bitter and angry and upset. And I lived with that as a consequence growing up. But when he reached his 60s, I think he was maybe about 60, 65, in between those ages, he ended up making the over 60s Australian cricket team. So he finally got to the dream, and I saw a completely different man, a very happy, a very open and free man as he played cricket. And, he travelled over the UK, he played test cricket over there in the over 70s team. So that sort of has had a huge influence on my life, and I believe that's why my parents in a way have always supported me. Even though I'm sure they worried, they have supported me in many ways.
That's a lovely story, but also it depresses me as well that his love, his passion, that enjoyment he gained, he didn't get it earlier somehow.
Yes, and I think of that myself, and I think that's one thing that's really driven me to live a life where I don't shut off my heart so much. And I think that's why I've chosen a life that is constant travel and is not like a job, because I saw how my father jumped into that life and it made him really unhappy. And so I was determined for that not to be my reality.
So have you ever got to a place where you've sort of settled in and thought, actually, I like it here. I could be here for 5 or 6 years, or do you sort of go in there knowing your exit plan?
Yeah, we lived in Raleigh, North Carolina in the US. We had about 4 years in total there. And we really love that. We would love to go back and live there. We just struggle with visas. But currently at the moment in our current place here on the Gold Coast, we stopped here after our 18-month road trip. So we've been here for about 8 months now. And when we arrived, I was like, this is it. This is where I can settle now. I'm happy here. This is a great place to live. And then after 6 months, the itchy feet were back, and it was like, nah, I've got to go again, and we're planning out for a US road trip next year. So I haven't quite hit that spot yet, and I'm not sure if I ever will. I mean, I've been doing this for nearly 20 years now. Maybe a time will come. I don't know. I'll just roll with it.
I had a lady on the show, and I'm desperately trying to think who this lady was. They after a while, Caroline, they kind of all blur into one.
Well, you won't forget me, though, I hope.
I won't forget you. I just remember you as that flirty one, 474, flirty. And this girl said to me, and it was fascinating, she was travelling the world on her own. And I said, what was the worst place that you've ever been to? And she said, China. She said, China was dreadful. They kind of poo in the street, and they do all these kind of things, and it was just horrible, horrible, horrible. And I went, well, that don't sound very fun. I said, where's the next place you're going to go? And she said, China. I went, well, what's the point in that? It was dreadful. It was dreadful. They poo in the streets. You don't want that, do you? And she said, yeah, but that was when I was at that point in my journey. I want to go back to see if I've developed. I've expanded my knowledge, my experience. Can I cope with it now? And I thought, that's fascinating that she wants to go back just to see if she's kind of become a different version who can accept things. Can you understand what she's saying on that?
Yeah, I can. Very much so. And I think when you travel long term, you can see how you change. It's quite easy to see how you change because you're in a new environment all the time. And so she's very aware that she possibly has changed a lot, and she will be seeing the place with different eyes, probably more accepting eyes, which then leads to a different experience. I have the same with Athens. I went to Athens, that was 98, I think, and I hated it. I didn't like it at all. And I always think to myself, I'd love to go back there now because I am a different person, and I'd love to see it through my eyes now, and I could possibly really enjoy it.
I went to, I used to do a lot of road trips through America, and used to just get a car. And when we first went there, it was very much like we would plan every single stop. And by the time you'd done a couple of them, you didn't plan anything. You just got to an airport, got a car, and off you went. And the stories that me and my friends, if we do meet up, talk about, it's not the sort of wonderful experiences. It's those horrible experiences that when you go into a really dodgy hotel. And we went into this place, and it was somewhere in Texas, I believe. And it was like a trucker's stop. And we'd been driving all day, and we thought there was going to be a decent town, and there wasn't. So we got to this place, and there was loads and loads of lorries, and it was all sort of just banged out with truckers. And normally we would, three of us, we would share a hotel room to sort of keep the cost down. And this one time we went there, and you know when you've been travelling with people for a long time, you can't bear how they breathe or they eat.
They snore.
Yeah, and when you go into McDonald's, you want to get a plastic fork and ram it in their head because you've just had enough of them. So yes. I went into this place and I said, how much for the hotel rooms for the night? And the woman said, $10 a night. And normally we were paying, like, I don't know, $50 or something like that for the three of them. So I said, 3 rooms. I have 3 rooms. I can't bear these guys. I want a night away from them. And so we went into our different rooms, and I think we were escaping each other just for the night. And they had these kind of doors that didn't close between the 2 different rooms. And so I was a bit panicked by that. So I got a lot of furniture and piled it up because I didn't know who was in the room next to me, not knowing that they swing both ways. So the person could have just pulled it towards them and jumped over and murdered me. But I thought I was going to save. And I was in this room, and it was freezing cold, so I climbed into bed, and as I was laying there, I thought, something's itching by my feet, and I put my hand down the bed, and when I pulled it out, it was a human scalp. And it was like,
oh my gosh,
like, you know, like the Indians used to cut off in the old days with like the blood and the flesh and everything on there. And so I went back to the reception and I said to them, look, I just found this human scalp in my bed. And they went, well, what would you like? I can give you a discount on the room. And I said, no, I want a different room. I want a different room. Oh, we haven't got a different room. So I had to go back, and there was no sort of change of sheets or anything. So I just slept in my clothes. And all night, the couple next door were going for it big time. Now, if there's kids listening, don't ask what that means to your mum and dad. Going for it just doesn't mean anything. Just pass that by. But we still laugh about that now. And that was a horrible experience. The whole night was just dreadful. But I don't remember the good stuff somehow. I remember the adversity in the journeys. Is that with you? Do you remember the things that didn't quite go well, but you go, ha ha ha? Do you remember when that happened?
Yeah, a lot. And the travels I've had with my friends as well. I mean, when we meet up again, and we meet up every, year or so when we can, we're sharing the same stories, and it's always those challenging times of stories like yours, although we've never had a scalp in the bed, but those kind of stories, I guess they just make you laugh so much now, because at the time they weren't funny and you may have been frightened or annoyed and had enough, but now you can look back on it and see it as a funny experience. So I guess they're the ones you laugh about the most and want to talk about the most.
And which one of your friends was the one that was most annoying to travel with?
Oh, I travelled around in a Eurovan, a camper van around Europe for a couple of months with, at one stage there was 6 of us in this camper van that only slept 4. So there were a couple of girls in there that were annoying. I left early because I just couldn't handle it anymore. I was like, that's it, I'm gone. I'm going on my own adventure. and took off. It was just too hard to contemplate. So the most annoying ones I'm probably not I'm not really friends with anymore, or sharing stories over campfires with.
You do have to move on, don't you? Because part of my coaching at the moment, we're talking about clearing the decks and looking at your friends and the people that you're surrounded with and going, are they actually bringing anything to my life? Are they just rooting me? Are they negative? And looking at all the books on your shelf thinking, am I ever going to read those? And try to sort of like clear the decks. Now, you must be quite frugal. So did you mentally have to get rid of people to be able to free that space to move into?
Oh, yes. I mean, I'm forever decluttering my life. And I think as a traveller, I'm very used to having people come in and out of my life, so I can very easily let people go. And I think it's really important that we protect ourselves in a way that we watch our energy space and who we're allowing to come in and out of that, because there are, I guess you can call them energy vampires, or people that come in your life that are there to kind of bring you down, and the naysayers and dream stealers, and they can easily destroy your dreams and destroy what it is that you know is best for you, that you're looking to create. So you do have to be very careful, and it doesn't have to be done in a negative or a mean way. You can just kind of distance yourself, and you know, we're all evolving beings. We're moving through life and changing all the time, so it makes sense that we're going to drop people out of our sphere as we move through and welcome new people in who are better suited to our personalities at the stage of life that we're in.
Did you think actually that is the way forward? We've already touched on the fact that you delved back and you found that core essence, the thing that you loved doing. But by then decluttering and surrounding yourself with the right people, does that create a kind of vacuum for success somehow?
I think so. I mean, it's all energy, and it's all a raising up and a lifting up, and I think that's what happens when you're moving, you're creating a different lifestyle. You naturally draw in people who are kind of on that level with you, and who are going to support and encourage and help you move to the next stage. And I do think that a large part of my success and anyone's success really comes down to the relationships that they build with other people. It's very powerful and it's very important, and that's why it's important to build relationships with the right people. And as you mentioned, is this person in my life contributing to it in any valuable way? And if it's not, it's important to see that and to clear them out, and then look for those relationships that do contribute something valuable to your life, or that you can contribute in value back.
It is fascinating, though, because in this environment, everything's very positive. I speak to positive people doing positive things, and everything is great. Now, every now and again, my parents have a family business, and if there's staff shortages, I used to work in there years ago when I was a kid. I'll go in and do a day, I'll cover. And the customers that come in just seem to be kind of beaten up by life. How much is that? Oh, it was so much cheaper last time. Oh. And it was just moaning, groaning. And I'm really struck by certain environments are just conducive for moaning and groaning. And I sort of stand there thinking, oh, shut up and go elsewhere then if you don't like it. But I don't say that, obviously, because they're customers. But I'm really aware of the more positive and enthusiastic you are, the more positive and enthusiastic the people are around you. And the more miserable, you just surround yourself with miserable people. It's self-fulfilling prophecy, isn't it?
Oh, it absolutely is. I notice the same thing, and I find it's very rare that I do come across those people or groups of people or situations where those groups of people are now, just as you said, because you draw, the like attracts like sort of thing. And I find if I do end up in that environment, I'm very quick to get myself out of there, because it's very thick air, and you just notice the negativity and how awful it makes you feel, because you're so used to being in a different environment where you're feeling so much happier and a lot more positive. And it's not to say that challenges don't happen. They're always going to be there. That's a part of life. But you see a challenge as an opportunity to grow and learn, rather than something that's miserable and to complain about.
So obviously we've kind of painted this journey you've been on as hugely positive and enthusiastic, and that's the problem with shows like this. We talk to people that have got a success around them, so we bring out the success. But at the very beginning, how hard was it to get Why Travel going so that you could get readership?
Wow, so hard. And a lot of people don't see that. They don't see the behind the scenes. They just see the highlight reel and how it is now. But a lot of work, a lot of sacrifices, a lot of changes within myself. And I think that's the biggest thing that is possibly not spoken about as much. People want to know what the step-by-step secrets are. And I think the biggest secret is to put a lot of your time and resources into growing yourself, because you are the center of what you're creating. You're your business. You're the success story. So if you're working on yourself, and it means confronting a lot of things perhaps that you don't want to confront, and learning new skills, and doing all these really challenging, difficult things, learning how to manage fear and rejection, and failure, because you're going to fail over and over again. They're the tough parts. The other hard parts are the grunt work you have to do, the writing, the photo editing, the administration, the building, designing, all of that. But that can be learned. The hard stuff is managing yourself and the way your business grows.
And certainly the hard stuff isn't that hard if you're playing within that environment that you love. It's if you were turning up every day to do a job that you hated and then doing the hard stuff as well. That is really difficult, almost impossible. But if you find that thing that you love doing, you can kind of get through it. Maybe not every day. I say to my coaching clients, the key thing is to turn up. Turn up every day and do something. And don't worry about hitting a home run. I saw this thing the other day, and it was brilliant. And it was said something along the lines, and I'm paraphrasing now, so many people stop because of slow progress without realising that slow progress is still progress. And I thought, that's it, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it. And another one I say, it doesn't matter how slow you're moving, as long as you're moving, then you're going forward. And there's no such thing as an overnight success story. I know that because I followed those sales pitches and ended up in losing nearly $500,000 in assets. So it is a slow progress, and you have to work with it. And there are days, generally most days, I'm bounding out of bed, and I could sit at my desk and I could work 16 hours straight and totally be happy. Could never have done that in my previous job. That would have been absolute misery. I was busting to get out the door as soon as time was up. And there are days you're tired, maybe you don't want to do it, but as you said, just show up and do something, and it all helps you to make those steps forward.
Well, what about the actual disconnecting from it? Obviously, we say turn up, but I realised on my journey that my desire to turn up actually was killing me. And I was doing 20-hour days, getting up the next morning, doing it again, thinking to myself, I'm going to be getting there quicker. But then when I realised that actually by disconnecting totally, it's like I'm talking about Euro Disney. We're talking about Disney at the beginning going away. I'm not taking a computer, a phone or anything. I'm just going to close it all off. And if it all goes belly up while I'm gone, then hey, you haven't got a show for about 6 days. Live with it. You know what I mean? Well, before I would have gone, I've got to make sure it's going out. I've got to make sure the show is there. The people are relying. If the dots aren't going out, there's going to be, upheaval. Countries are going to be overthrown. Do you think you actually have to go, enough is enough? I know it's my passion. I know it's my drive. I know it's what I want to bring to the world. But at the end of the day, let's just go and get drunk for 6 days and forget all about it.
Yeah, and I think they're really important parts of the progress and the journey, because I think that's the rest, the pause is the places where you regather your strength and gain extra clarity and focus. And you need those rest periods. Otherwise, you can't get the fuel that you need to grow again. So it is really important that you do disconnect and do take time to shut off. And if people are struggling to do that, just force yourself to do it for one day. And then at the end of the day, you'll see and you'll realise that it all didn't fall apart. And then you'll go, oh, okay, so maybe my fears were just fears. They weren't real. It didn't fall apart. Everything's still working fine. So next time I might take 2 days off and we'll see what happens then.
And then 3 days and then 4 days and then you never get back to it and you become a down and out, living on a beach with your hair in dreadlocks. That's what we're doing.
9 a.m.
Yeah, absolutely. We're on the slippery slope there, Caroline. We're going to meet each other in a box under a bridge somewhere, and I'm going to blame you for putting that thought in my head.
It's all your fault, David. I jumped on Join Up the Dots, and look what happened to me.
That's right. But we're fun together. Our box will be the best box that anyone's ever seen. It will have curtains and everything. Well, I'm going to play some words now of a man who's no longer with us, but he created the whole theme of the show. Back in 2005, he said these words, and these words are going to live longer than I am. I think these are going to be words that are there to the end. This is Steve Jobs.
Of course, it was impossible to connect the dots looking forward when I was in college, but it was very, very clear looking backwards 10 years later. Again, you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards. So you have to trust that the dots will somehow connect in your future. You have to trust in something, your gut, destiny, life, karma, whatever. Because believing that the dots will connect down the road will give you the confidence to follow your heart, even when it leads you off the well-worn path. And that will make all the difference.
So with traveling, obviously you have created your own path. But how do you get past those obstacles as he's talking about? You've got to trust in something, either your gut, faith, destiny, karma, whatever. How have you managed to do it?
Yeah, it's not easy. I think the travel for me has been such a gift because I just love listening to that then. I just got goosebumps because the connecting up the dots it happened over and over again for me with my travels where, you know, I was thrown in situations where I do not know what to do. I'm kind of in London. I have no money. I have no friends. I have no job. What am I going to do here? And I learned through these experiences of my travel, I learned that everything works out in the end and that to worry less and trust more. And when you trust more, you enjoy life more, and you do get to that point where you do look back and you can see how the dots connected and how you were being guided to these experiences and you were going there for a particular reason, to learn a particular lesson to help you progress to the next stage in your life. So the travel's been the key for me in helping to develop that trust, because I'm always out of my comfort zone. I'm always out of the box. So you're more inclined to be able to see, I guess, your own strengths and to have faith in that and to have faith in how things work and everything kind of works out okay in the end.
And do you have a big dot in your life? I always love asking this question, but when you look back on it, you kind of go, yeah, that was kind of it. That was it when things started going the right way.
In regards to our blog?
In regards to anything that makes up your life?
Yeah, I mean, there are so many. These dots are quite connected, but when I was living in London, I was in a really bad relationship. Emotionally, I was in a terrible state, and I had gone away with some girlfriends down to Brighton for a weekend away, and we ended up getting our palms read by a Romanian gypsy lady there. And I'll never forget what she had told me, and she told me, you know, all about my life and how I wasn't very strong and all these things were happening. And she looked at my palm and she said, "You're worried you're just going to be another mug left on the shelf." And I thought she was talking about in regards to relationships. And she just kind of looked at my hand and kind of chuckled and said, "You don't have to worry about that." And then left it at that and didn't tell me anything else. And so I kind of went back to London. I split up with my boyfriend. I moved to Dublin and I started a new life on my own. And then a couple of years later, I met my husband, Craig, and we travelled, etc. And then it went to when our life crashed with our when all our investments went wrong. And we were standing this is so clear in my mind, at a friend's Christmas party, and I was so frustrated and I was so irritated by what we had done with our life and the position that we had got ourselves into. And I just said to my husband, I just feel like we've totally wasted our travel experiences, and I just feel like I'm going to be another mug left on the shelf. And it was like, bang, I suddenly remembered what she had told me, and I knew in that moment that's what she was seeing. That was her vision. And I got the lesson in that moment was that all my experiences and all my travel experiences hadn't been just for me. They had actually been in order for me to learn so that I could share. And that's when everything changed for me, because I suddenly realized my purpose was centered around this lifestyle of travel, but it was also focused on sharing what I knew and helping other people to create a similar lifestyle.
Ah, what a lovely story. And so the message of the whole show is for all the listeners, go out and find yourself a Romanian gypsy, and they will change your life. There must be one on every corner nowadays, isn't there?
I think so.
Or
you can't connect the dots now. You'll have to wait for a few years' time.
Yeah, and if you can't find one, go on Amazon or eBay. I'm sure you'll be able to get one part used on eBay. Everyone, you only use them once and they change your life. Well, this is the end of the show, and this is another journey that we're going to send you on, but this is one back in time. This is the part of the show that we call a sermon on the mic, when we send you back in time to have a one-on-one with the younger Caroline. And if you could go back and speak to the younger version, what age would you choose and what advice would you give? Well, we're going to find out, because I'm going to play the theme tune, and when it fades, you're up. This is the sermon on the mic.
Here we go with the best bit of the show, the sermon on the mic, the sermon on the mic.
Caroline, listen up. You're sitting on your kitchen table, you're 30 years old, you're stressed, you know things aren't working for you. You understand what's going wrong. It's because you're not traveling anymore. But you don't want to admit that to yourself because you doubt yourself. You don't believe in yourself. You think your dreams can't be possible. And those visions you have in your head, what you're writing down in the paper now about sharing your travel dreams and the lessons that you've learned through travel, you really believe in something that's bigger than yourself. You have a dream, and it's an important dream, and you're dreaming it for a reason. You're dreaming it because the truth is the universe wants you to live it. It's your special purpose. And I want you to stop doubting yourself and stop believing that you can't do it, and stop listening to that critical voice that says that you're worthless and not good enough, because it's not true. You can. Believe in that. Your traveling sets your life on fire. It's what makes your heart feel so joyful. You can live that life. I want you to follow your heart and listen to your inner voice and be guided by that and only that, and not that nasty voice that wants to tell you you're not good enough.
Caroline, what's the number one best way that our audience can connect with you?
Sure, they can come on over to our blog. It's ytravelblog.com. That's with a letter Y. And we are on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest at ytravelblog with the letter Y.
We'll have all the links on the show notes. Caroline, thank you so much for spending time with us today, joining up the dots. And please come back again when you have more dots to join up, because I do believe that by joining up those dots and connecting our past is the best way to build our futures. Caroline Makepeace, thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me, David. It's been a lot of fun chatting with you.
What a lovely lady, Caroline Makepeace. Yeah, she was the other side of the world, but you wouldn't believe it, would you? And that's the beauty about being able to connect virtually. And it really does give you opportunities to create a lifestyle for yourself that you wouldn't believe. She's done it. I've done it, and every single one of you out there, if you are of the belief that you've got to get 100 million people to follow you and huge global power, you don't. You've just got to touch on that thing that you love doing, and then find other people who love doing that thing as well, and then your life can change overnight. It's so important that all of you make the most of your life and go out and get the dream, which leads me seamlessly, and I'm probably going to do this on every show now because it's very important to me and it's important to you guys as well. Don't just keep on listening to the shows, because the shows are all about people that have got off their backsides and done it. But if you're lacking support, if you're lacking motivation, come over to us at Join Up Dots, look at Get the Dream, see the information that we've got on there, and see if we can connect with you and start changing your life, because it's very, very easy to do. You've just got to find that thing, surround yourself with people who are like-minded, motivational, be challenged on a daily basis so that the routines don't drag you down to what you're currently getting, and you will see magic occur. So that's joinupdots.com, get the dream, and hopefully we'll see you on the other side. Cheers, guys. Thank you. Bye-bye.
David doesn't want you to become a faded version of the brilliant self you were once to become. So he's put together an amazing guide for you called the 8 Pieces of Advice that every successful entrepreneur practices, including the 2 that changed his life. Head over to joinupdots.com to download this amazing guide for free, and we'll see you tomorrow on Join Up Dots.